so very honored to have you join us today as candidates running for the Rich Township RTDO office, and that you are representing the Rich Township First Party group. There are two groups running, and yours has been the one to respond. This is a series. You are one of a series of forums that we have participated and recorded, and our forum tonight, which takes place March 22nd, 2021, 6:30 this evening, will be made available to you and all of your constituents and your voting public online through YouTube. So create a voting day plan. When? Early voting. We need folks to know that early voting really started today, March 22nd, and runs through Tuesday, April 5th, 2021. You can vote on election day, April 6th, 2021. Where? Find your local polling place location. You go to www.cookcountyclerkil.gov. Who? Preview your ballot. Where? www.cookcountyclerkil.gov/service/your-voter-information. Write down the names of your chosen candidates and positions for your reference. So we ask people to go to the polling place ready to go. This is the itinerary for this evening's event. We're doing the welcome now, and then we will tell you a little bit about SOS. After that, we will talk about the forum ground rules of engagement. After that, we'll discuss the introduction of candidates. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to speak. Timer will be used. Now, because there are two of you tonight, I am going to ask our technical director, Gina, to offer you 3 minutes to speak, okay? Explanation of questioning procedures, pre-event, during event, and SOS questionnaire questions. We'll talk about that pool of questions later on. 6 candidates forum begins, and then after that, the candidate closing remarks, and the forum will officially close. What is SOS, and what is its current purpose? SOS is a grassroots group whose purpose is to promote a community that is informed, educated, and activated to ensure a well-educated, empowered electorate that would utilize the power of the vote to place into office well-vetted and qualified government officials who understand that they are in office as public servants to well serve their electorate. The forum rules of engagement are: candidates must arrive on time to participate in the forum. Late arrivals will not be admitted. There will be an opportunity for everyone to log on up to 15 minutes before the forum start time. Candidates will be required to have their video camera on with full view of their person or face, as there will be participants with visual, auditory challenges that are hearing impaired and lip read. Audience and/or candidates should mute their microphone while others are speaking. Audience members should have their first and last names displayed on their video frame. If assistance is needed to modify the display name, alert the host verbally or through the chat function. Please be respectful, polite, and courteous to everyone present during the forum. And please tell us your name before you ask the candidates a question, preferably with your video camera on during the interaction. Please speak in clear, normal voice volumes throughout the forum so that everyone may hear and understand your communications, as there will be participants with visual auditory challenges that are hearing impaired and lip read. And I also ask all of the respondents to please make sure that you keep your head up where your mouth can be seen. Please make certain you follow directions, rules of proper decorum to the best of your ability. Under no circumstances will disruptive, rude, accusatory, or otherwise demeaning behaviors be tolerated. Participants behaving this way will be removed and not allowed to re-enter the event. Ask one question at a time. If you have multiple questions, please type them into the chat so that we can get them answered after everyone has had an opportunity to ask at least one question. SOS will decide if follow-up is necessary. Township government first party candidates are Calvin Jordan, Township Supervisor, Arlene Sugar, Al Amen, Town Clerk, Sam Brown, Township Assessor, Dennis White, Highway Commissioner, Nicholas Bobus, Trustee, Stephen Burris, Trustee, Therese Goodrich, Trustee, Jacqueline Small, Trustee. If you look at you'll see little asterisks and other little symbols there. Below, if you see a star by name, that candidate did not receive mail questionnaires due to USPS mail delivery delays. And we know this because SOS bothered to put tracking on all of the mailings that we sent out. If you see the little umlaut sign, that's really what that's called. Candidates who did not receive mailed form invitations due to the USPS mail delivery delays. Again, we did do tracking on those. SOS questionnaire respondents. Respondent names here. These candidates chose to complete and submit the SOS questionnaire by the deadline. For their efforts and cooperation, they will receive 1 additional minute for every opportunity to speak during this forum and will be the first in line to answer questions alternating between the candidates. This doesn't really apply to us this evening because unfortunately, we don't have Dennis White did not receive his information. In fact, I think the post office still has your information, Mr. White, candidate White, and Therese Goodrich chose not to complete the questionnaire online. So we will just alternate.
I was gonna just mention that that they were delivered to the rest of the candidates outside of the ones that were here. So they did receive it. Dennis, I did notice that you emailed it today, your responses.
Yes.
However, it wasn't by the deadline. So this screen is just to, understand that in a normal other forums that we've held, if candidates have responded by the deadline, that they did receive an additional minute. However, because there's only 2 of you tonight, we're still going to give you that extra minute because we have more time.
Okay.
But neither of you will have more time than the other, if that makes sense, because neither, turned in a questionnaire by the deadline. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There are 3 pools of questions, which I mentioned earlier. The first pool of questions are from mailed SOS candidate questionnaire. So that was the questionnaire. There are questions that will come off of that this evening. And the second one is the pre-event questions submitted online via Facebook and or SOS. We didn't have any submitted. And pool 3, questions submitted live during the virtual event in the Zoom chat function. So I don't think we have anyone present in that. So basically you'll be getting the questions from the questionnaire and questions that we have, some amended questions we have here.
Okay, so that completes that introduction, and so now we can begin with questions. Connie, if you want to, we of course, we would have in the chat box any questions. Lynn, feel free to type in the chat box. Connie and myself, we could do the same, but we will pull from those other two pools, which is that other pool, which is the questionnaire questions. But Connie, go right ahead and take it away.
Okay, so what we want to start with is an introduction from you. And so we're going to do this in alphabetical order to start. So Therese, you'll be first to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. My name is Therese Goodrich, and I live in Park Forest, Illinois. You will find out that all of our candidates represent all of the towns and villages in the whole Ridge Township. So we have a very, very good slate of candidates representing every place. I'm from Park Forest. I've lived in Park Forest a little over 60 years. We came here in 1954. My husband had just graduated, I have to say, from Gonzaga University School of Law. And now I lost him just 5 years ago. So I am widowed, but right from the time we came, we got involved in the community. It was such a vibrant community to live in. We raised 9 children in Park Forest. And believe me, when you hear the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child, they certainly did help with ours, because at that time, Park Forest was such a beautiful open community that everybody took care of everybody. And I don't think there was a time in any of those early years that we even locked our doors. And if somebody else's kid had to come in and use a bathroom, that was fine. So it was just lovely, that kind of a community. I immediately got involved in the arts programs and in the church programs. I have been a part of St. Irenaeus Catholic Church ever since I've been here, being very involved in the school programs, the Sunday school programs, and as well as the liturgy and the music and all. I also became involved in some of the government aspects and was elected a trustee. My husband had been a trustee 2 years before, and then when he retired, then I ran with the women's conference group and was elected a trustee. After that, I worked in the business world for 10 years. I was executive director of a national agency and had 300 chapters when we started, and I grew it to 600 chapters before I retired after 10 years. That took a lot of traveling on my part, and I was really burnt out, wanted to be home. But after I retired from the business world, I started looking around in the community, and someone asked me about being a trustee at the township. And I had known quite a few people there, and I said, that sounds like a good way to end my community services. Well, that was almost 20 years ago, and I'm still here doing it. So a wonderful township. There's been quite a few problems the last few years, and some of them I feel were directly because of the supervisor. And I tried speaking with him and trying both confidentially by myself and oftentimes at the meetings, and would be completely ignored. There were many suggestions and ideas that I had of what the township should be doing. I always attended the conferences and the various things for education and being a good township trustee, but it was just futile. And so when this term, when we knew another, I wasn't going to run again. And then Calvin said that he would run as a supervisor if I would be on the slate. And I really, really
Therese, I just want to just let you know, I can give you about 30 more seconds and then we'll have to switch over.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but I really want to encourage people to vote early if they can. My vote number is 84. So punch 84 for me.
Thank you so much, Therese. So I want to just make sure that because we only have a couple of people tonight, I'm gonna, be diligent about making sure that each of you gets the same amount of time available to you. So Therese, you took about 4 minutes, 45 seconds. So I'm gonna give that same amount of time to you, Dennis, because I want to make sure that we're being fair. So you can go ahead. If you use all of it, great. If you don't, that's okay too. Just know that you're getting the same amount of time. I'm keeping a stopwatch over here.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having both Teresa and I this evening. Teresa and I are on the same team, so I'm not concerned about Teresa having a little bit of extra time. She's got a lot to say. She's been a tremendous asset to the community, and I'm certainly proud and privileged to be on the same ticket and team with Teresa. But just by way of introduction, my name is Dennis White. I am a resident of Flossmoor. I've been a resident since late 2004. I'm here with my wife and 2 children. My wife is a teacher at HF, and both of my kids currently attend HF. One's a senior and freshman. As a resident of Flossmoor, I've been a member of the Flossmoor Plan Commission for about the last 9 years. I just stepped down recently from that, really within the last 6 months, just in anticipation for running for this office and making sure I have the time and availability to be focused. In addition to being just a resident and working with the Flossmoor Plan Commission, I've been active in the community by way of a lot of coaching. I enjoy working with kids, and I enjoy sports. So I believe I've coached my daughter's volleyball team and soccer team, coached my son in soccer and basketball, and even helped out when they participated in other sports. So I certainly enjoy the sports and enjoy working with the kids and watching them be competitive and not take themselves too serious, but have a good time. So that's it. Professionally, I am a licensed attorney. I've been an attorney for, graduated in 1994 from Northwestern Law School. I've been a member of the bar since later that year. And in my professional capacity, I started out as an attorney for the Federal Reserve Board in Washington, D.C., then in private practice in Washington, D.C., then became a corporate attorney for General Motors Corporation in Detroit. And then once my wife wanted to come back home, came back here in private practice shortly for a minute, and then moved over to the Forest Preserve District of Cook County. And as the chief attorney at the Forest Preserve District of Cook County, had tremendous opportunity to work with a number of elected officials and municipal staff employees, really in terms of trying to establish good government policies, transparency, intergovernmental agreements, working with other governments to just improve our processes and even do joint purchasing. So in my desired role as the highway commissioner, my goal was certainly to be to bring that increased transparency and to make sure we're doing things in a competitive basis, and that we're looking at creative ways to lower our costs and our efficiency. So that's a snapshot of me. Hopefully I didn't use all of my time, but I certainly am here for any other questions you guys may have.
Well,
No, you didn't, so you're good. We'll
All
keep
right.
you on the spotlight. Connie, if you wanted to ask the first question, we could just keep you here.
okay. But Candidate White,
Yes,
why
ma'am.
are you running for this office?
Well, as I mentioned, I certainly like to be a person who gives back to the community and work with the community. I've been a member of the Flossmoor Plan Commission, and I believe that certainly I've had a positive impact and influence in that regard, and certainly looking forward to bringing those experiences with the Plan Commission, as well as those experiences as an attorney for the county, and all of those things that I learned in terms of intergovernmental cooperation and increased transparency. Look forward to bringing those type of things to the Rich Township.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Therese,
All right. And
The
Therese, let me replace the
same
spotlight. There you go.
why are you running for office?
Well, as I kind of mentioned, at first I was thinking about retiring, but I realized that there's still things that I would like to do. And one of the things is to get the township involved a little more with the various communities. I think that oftentimes combined action, like with the youth group or with an arts group or with like we, especially with our senior group. The senior center is located in Park Forest, and I go over just to see what's going on. And I feel there's a lot of things we can still do to help the seniors, as far as establishing like a senior council and letting the seniors tell us what they would like to do. I also feel that we need to reactivate our mental health commission. It was something that I had suggested many years ago, because when we see people come in who are getting government aid, oftentimes there's a mental health component that they could take advantage of. And I would like to continue on and see some of those things happen.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, now, Candidate White, what does the trustee do? What are the duties of the trustee?
Well, I'm actually not running for the trustee position. Trustee
No,
Good is
okay.
running for the
I'm
trustee.
sorry. I got my stuff mixed up here.
But I can certainly share my thoughts on it if that would be
can,
helpful.
but hold up just a minute. That was my snafu. Okay.
Okay.
So
That's okay. Dennis is running for highway commissioner, so we can ask you that question.
yes.
Okay.
yes.
In terms of highway commissioner, I think, there are a certain number of roads that are maintained by the township. And as a highway commissioner, I think a primary responsibility is make sure that those roads are maintained, paved, and when plowed when necessary, and salted, but also the right of ways are correctly addressed, and that if there are anything that needs to be addressed from a community standpoint with respect to our highways, that we do that. And I believe that it's commissioner's responsibility to make sure when we do, in fact, need contractors to address some of those needs, that we award those contracts on a competitive basis, and that we actively sort of advertise and raise awareness regarding some of these opportunities to make sure that we have sort of the most efficient and best pricing out there.
Well, okay. Help me to understand. You said highway commission. Can you
Yes.
be a little more descriptive about that?
Well, the highway department has a budget, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of about $740,000 a year to spend, and that's spent primarily on a few employees, but then also a few contracts for paving and contracts for plowing and paving. And
So
so
you
the
do
goal,
all of the streets?
not all of the streets in the entire township. Within the township, there are a certain number of streets that are county maintained streets, a certain number of streets that are municipal by the village or streets, and then there are other streets that are maintained by the township. And so the goal is to make sure that we handle those township highways and maintain them in the best and most efficient way possible. And in some instances, that undoubtedly will involve sort of joint contracting arrangements with some of the local other municipalities to make sure we don't have a situation where trucks go right here and stop and turn around, but also that everything is plowed and paved. And it's really just a lot of times a matter of thinking it through and actually making sure that we get involved early enough to participate with the joint purchasing opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Therese? Hi. Okay, a similar question for you. What is the job, what are the duties of the trustee, township trustee?
Well, the township it's one of the oldest forms of government in the state of Illinois. And the townships were formed when there wasn't very many real cities between, Chicago and Springfield and some of the large cities. And now we have all the suburban towns, so that the purpose of the township is changing as the country changes. But the main purpose of the township, like Dennis said, is to handle the roads and bridges. And they used to have, some still have cemeteries, but also is to be part of what the assessor does. And what we do have a wonderful assessor and works with the county assessor. But the people can come into the office and they can ask to fill out these forms to reduce their property assessment. So that's one of the things that we do there. Another thing is that we call it GA, it's government assistance. And to me, that is the most important thing that the township does. There are people that have nowhere to turn, and we are the only ones who can offer them some kind of assistance. Mm-hmm. We had pantry assistance way before any churches or communities thought of having a pantry. Respond Now finally came up with a pantry maybe 15, 20 years ago. And so ours didn't have quite as many, but in things like that, you help the people no matter what town they live in, because the towns, the municipalities, like in Richmond Park and Madison Park Forest, they don't have a place where people can go to actually receive help and possibly even aid in purchasing things. What we try to do is now, if they're not on Social Security, they can come into the township. If they're on Social Security, then they can have advice as to how to perhaps budget themselves. Or if they can't meet their property tax, we can have them and with someone who will just offer suggestions as to how to learn a budget. You'd be surprised how many people don't know how to run a family household. But many times, instead of giving anyone money, we have what we call gift cards for Aldi. We work with the municipalities. If someone is going to have their water turned off or their electricity turned off, we try to work with them and perhaps pay the water bill for that month, or get to NICOR and help pay some of their gas bill or things like that. And oftentimes, if they don't have a residence, we can work with all the various agencies like PADS and trying to help them find some housing. So to me, that's the most important part. But we always reach out to the community, and the senior citizens in our whole complete area of the township need help. And oftentimes their help is more in the way of having maybe Meals on Wheels. Maybe if they're not able to go out, to have a senior companion come to the house, just to visit with them, but really to assess what their situation is. If they do need medical help, help get them to the doctor. If they do need some mental health assistance, perhaps help them find. There are lots and lots of agencies in our community, but people don't know about them. And so we have all those lists, and we try to help make that contact for them. One of the things we also do.
Therese, if we can actually, that you just brought up a really good point, and that actually is what Lynn just asked in the chat box, which is what will you do to increase awareness of what the township actually does and the difference between townships? So if you can give us maybe 2 minutes to answer that, I'd like to hear from Dennis too, what his ideas are to increase awareness of what the township actually does and the difference between townships.
Well, one of the things that we just have restarted years ago, we had a bi-monthly, every other month newsletter, and that got stopped when all of our budgets were cut. But we just instituted the newsletter again this year. I asked and asked and asked for it, and finally we got it reinstituted. So the newsletter now goes out to every single home in the township, and you know how the mailings are, so that they're much more aware of what the township is doing. The senior center sends out a newsletter, which is that is sent out to people that have been at the senior center, or anyone who, through churches or any place that we hear of, where they have senior groups, and that list is about 2,000. So that's how we're trying to become more aware.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dennis. If you can answer the same, and maybe it's about your particular, right, highway commissioner position and duties, and what it is that you're responsible for. But how Lynn wants to know, what will you do to increase awareness, or what some maybe ideas to increase awareness of what the township actually does, and maybe the difference between the town.
Okay, well, just a couple of thoughts that I think are crucial, and they're for the most part, they're in line with what my community involvement has been in the past, and that's in terms of working with kids. As you know, and as Therese mentioned, certainly there are efforts to bring back the newsletter, but now we communicate in so many different ways, and some of those ways are really not as expensive. So it's really about making sure that we have a Twitter account, an active and updated website, and an active and updated Facebook page, and that we reach people in those ways that are fairly easy to communicate to. And some of the events that we're having and hosting, we can make sure that we post that information and send out notices or updates just saying, hey, this is what's going on, this is what we'll be having. Additionally, in terms of things that I'd like to do as the highway commissioner, certainly I think it's important that we create some type of I'd say awareness with some of our local high schools in the area. So it's important to get them involved with township government, but government in general. So to the extent we can have, even if it's just a couple of career days, and or maybe an unpaid or even a small part-time internship where it's really limited to only local high school kids who can get in and do things. I think that creates awareness, and it creates awareness with people who are going to be around for a longer period of time and can help spread what we've already done. So just my initial thoughts.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Connie, if you don't have another question off the questionnaire, I can answer the one you put in the chat box.
Okay, please. Please.
Yeah. So Dennis, we'll have you start this one. So this question is, what or how is the RTDO currently assisting seniors who are shut-ins with getting their vaccinations. Seniors who don't have transportation, or if they have a vehicle, they can't drive. Maybe they're ill, maybe they're not able to leave the house. What are we able to do currently, or what is happening currently to assist those senior citizens who are not able to leave the house, to bring them vaccinations to them, or bring them to a vaccination? What's currently being done about that? You know?
Well, you know,
Excuse me, could I make a correction before we go any farther? You keep referring to us as the RTDO. We are not the RTDO.
Okay.
That's the Rich Township Democratic Organization. The township is by its very nature nonpartisan, but the individuals running can be Republicans or Democrats. But the township is the Rich Township, and the RTDO is the
Democratic organization.
It's a Democratic organization. I just wanted to.
So the Rich Township is Rich Township government.
right.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Therese, for that. And
thank
we will.
you for that. Thank you.
We'll be diligent about that. I appreciate that feedback. Okay, so Dennis, the Rich Township government offices, do you know what they're currently doing to assist seniors who are shut-ins with getting vaccinated?
And you know, sort of to the point that Therese raised, as a Rich Township first candidate, I'm not currently an incumbent with the Rich Township government organization, and certainly even in the position that I'm running for, the highway commissioner, that's not a position that I would be particularly, you know, although I would love to be helping out and doing everything I can, but that's not sort of a highway commissioner function. Therese, maybe as a trustee, may be able to give you some more ideas in terms of what they currently are doing. I know there's a lot of tremendous work being done in terms of outreach to seniors in general, but at this point, as a non-incumbent, it might be a little tough for me to answer that one.
Understood. I appreciate that. Okay, let me see. I'll switch the spotlight here. Therese, if you can answer, how is the Rich Township government currently assisting seniors that are shut-ins with receiving and getting vaccinated?
Well, one of the things that we do, we have this program with buses, with PACE and with the Jolly Trolley, and we're one of the few townships that has a complete senior. The people can take the buses to their medical appointments, and which includes vaccinations. They can take the buses to, if they're on dialysis, they can take the bus to the dialysis. And if they need to have a senior companion with them, they can include that. And right now, for the early voting, they can ride the bus free. So, and we want to make sure, like I went over the other day to Juniper Towers and talked to the lady. I said, be sure and tell all the seniors that they could ride the Jolly Trolley free if they want to go to the Village Hall for early voting. And but the PACE buses and the Jolly Trolley and all of the buses can take the seniors to wherever an appointment for a vaccination. And if they have to have somebody with them, that's fine. And we have buses that will pick up handicapped. If they're wheelchair bound, they certainly, the bus driver actually gets out of the bus, helps the person get in, and then the wheelchair is strapped into place so that they're very, very, very safety conscious. And right now with the pandemic, after each person, they only will take 2 on the bus, and after the persons are deposited where they were going, then they have a way of wiping down and spraying down all the area around where that person's at. And the bus driver has a plastic around where he or she is sitting for driving.
I appreciate all that great detailed information.
Wow, yes, yes.
And yeah, and really important to know. So, so the part of what you mentioned already is one of Lynn's next questions, which is what communication do you have at Juniper Towers and other senior buildings? So you said that you already are in communication with them to provide the buses.
Right.
Is there any other ways that the township is in communication with Juniper Towers outside of vaccinations?
Well,
Maybe just generally?
we certainly do have our newsletters over there. We have it at Juniper Towers, at Garden House, at Cedarwood, and there's one farther out at Richmond Park, out on Cicero. I can't remember the name of it. And then there's one, there's a senior building in Madison now, isn't there? But all of those senior buildings have people who go out from the township to get the information.
Great. I appreciate that. Dennis, did you have any follow-up or anything you wanted to add for those questions?
Okay,
Oh,
it sounds like Therese covered it a lot, and it sounds like Lynn also may have another question if she's ready to jump in.
Yes.
Yep, Lynn. Lynn, if you can unmute yourself, I think you pressed the mute button on accident. If you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question. I think you pressed it on accident. There you go. There you go. Go ahead and ask your follow-up question if you have one.
Okay, I'm looking to clarify from both of you how you intend to let the residents be aware and take advantage when they need township services. And let me give you an example. I have a distant relative who lives in, please help me, this is my mind is going, but who lives in, not Juniper Towers, but what is our other senior?
Garden House, in Garden House?
Garden House, okay, Garden House, who did not have money to pay a particular utility bill. She had no desire, she didn't know where to go. She did not know where to go. So what came to me with this presentation was you could answer, how are you going to help the residents know where to go when they are pretty desperate?
I can't believe that someone at Garden House didn't go to the manager, because the manager at any of these places, whoever is the person in charge, has all of our information. Because that's, and a utility bill, do they have to pay for their gas and water at Garden House?
No, and I'm only saying, how can we help our neighbors?
Right.
How can we all help our neighbors? That has nothing to do with
I
Garden
thought you
House
said,
or, no, I'm saying, how do we help our neighbors? So
You
you
know-
have a friend who has a relative who can't pay a bill, and how,
Mhm.
where do you refer them?
Right. So I think in addition to what Therese mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's important that we have our newsletters, our Facebook and our Twitter account, and all of those things, even our hotline that provide a direct contact and a name and a place to dial with some accountability. And certainly, it doesn't really do any good to have that information if we don't report back to the constituents to say what we're doing with it. So, when I envision these things, I think it's important to make sure that we say, hey, we got this number of calls in or emails or requests, and this is what we did with them, so that everybody knows, hey, what we have is here, and this is what we're doing with it when it comes in. Because I think it's just so easy to say, hey, we've got a number, you've got a way to reach us. But I think really what people want to know is, now that we reached you, what did we do? And certainly, I think, and what Teresa's saying, is there's some instances we can't do everything, but certainly we can do some things. And what we can do, we can certainly make sure you're aware of what we can do.
And I think to Teresa's credit, also, she mentioned that there seems to be a network set up already that works with the particular supervisors on a site. And as Candidate White was pointing out, that maybe that's where the tweak needs to happen to make sure there's accountability there. The people are doing everything they need to get done to make sure that these emergencies are met. Maybe that's the tweak. So let me ask you. Tell me what are your thoughts on transparency in government? Connect that to community involvement, along with accountability reporting to your constituents, along with accessibility to your public. So we're looking at you as a candidate, and we're asking you, how will you make sure that you are being transparent and that the government portion that you're running is people know what's going on, they know how to, information is readily available, easily accessible. You as a candidate, how will people reach you if they need to reach you? And what do you think about that? How will you get the community involved in the participation and in information sharing with you as a leader?
Are
So
you
we'll
talking
start.
to me? Are you asking me?
Therese, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
One of the things that we have 2 meetings a month, and those meetings are always open to the public. Always open to the public. We meet at the Township Center. But the most important thing is we have an annual meeting every year, and we try and try and try. We get that word out to every place where there's printed or where we post it on our website. We post it every place we can so that people can come and ask these kind of questions. The people who work at the township keep wonderful records, and you can always find out how many people are being helped by the assessor, how many people are being helped by the pantry, how many people are being helped at the general assistance. And I think that oftentimes word of mouth is the best way. And what we need to do, and I think all townships have the same problem, we need to get the general public aware that there is a township so that when they see a need, then they can, because we can't be running all around the community.
Right.
But if the general public would, if we could make the general public aware that the township does all of these things, then if they find someone, like Lynn mentioned, that someone that she knew who really needed some help, and because when they come in, they're not just given help, they are actually worked with, they fill out a registration form, they talk with them, they find out, well, how about doing this? What about doing that? To make sure that there's someone that's going to be looking out for them too. And I think that we all need to be aware that there are people that need help. And I think one of the things, if it's someone that is homebound, then the senior companion can visit them. And they do visit too. They stay and talk and just visit with them, because that's how you find out what their needs are. Not all the people are real talkative, and some are very reticent to tell you what they need. So the senior companions are trained to work with the people, and because they sit down in their own home with them, and then they make a report to the person when they get. And if there are things that need to be done there, maybe they need to contact another family member to help them. There's a lot of ways, and sometimes an emergency happens, and we certainly can be called on for that. But oftentimes it's more like counseling that they need.
So do you have ideas about how to get the community more involved with the township? And how is accountability reporting connected to that?
Well,
Therese mentioned a couple of things in terms of, that we meet twice, we'll be meeting twice a month, certainly if I'm fortunate enough to be elected.
Mhm.
But I think one of the things that I've seen happen before in other governmental entities is, as opposed to meeting and having those meetings at the same location every month, I think because we have such a spread out community, Rich Township, maybe once every 3 or 4 meetings, we can have it on a remote location. One of the COVID-19 has been very devastating, but one of the blessings that has come out of COVID-19 is it's shown us that we can find ways to be in touch and to work in ways that we don't necessarily have to be right there physical. So, or at our same normal location, we can do a lot of things via video setup. So I think there's an opportunity for us to look at various other sites throughout the township where maybe 4 times a year we have a meeting at an alternative location, in addition to some of the other social media things we're going to do. But also, in my capacity as a highway commissioner, I think it's important that we also make sure that we publicize when we're going out to bid for a contract. We make it clear what the bids were that came in, and we indicate exactly who the lowest bidder was. And if we don't go with the lowest bidder because maybe we think they're not qualified, we articulate exactly why we didn't do that. And similarly, to the extent we have openings within the township, certainly we need to make sure we publicize the fact that we have a job opportunity opening up, and then we make sure that people have an opportunity to interview, and so that it's not a matter of friends and family type of thing, either for contracts or for jobs. So I think it's important that as we come in as stewards of the taxpayers' funds, that those are the type of things that we do. And I think, like I said, just by having meetings at a minimum on a quarterly basis, we will be exposing ourselves to more members of the township than we've ever done in the past.
I would like to mention that we have over 300 volunteers that come and help at the pantry. And these people are from all around the township, and from all the communities. And many times what they do is, if there's an open house, somebody will have a little table set up with the information from the township and about the pantry and what they can do. So, but I think that's a great idea, Dennis. I'm with you on that. I think getting out and actually having one of the meetings in another community, because we do have our own building. As such as it is, it's still to me looks like a Pizza Hut, but but getting out into the community would be a great idea.
Okay, great.
Let me ask this. Consider your first 100 days in office after this election. What are 2 of the most important things you'd like to see done, enacted immediately? What would you like to see done? What would you like to see prioritized? Dennis?
You know, I think some of the communication issues that we've addressed certainly would be within those first 100 days. I think updating that website, making sure we have a Twitter account, I think, and making sure we have a point person for all of those things. I think those are sort of things that we could and should get done within the first 100 days. So I think that accountability first is really crucial as far as I'm concerned.
Good. And
Trustee Goodrich? What do you-
one of the things that I think that we can do is to actually redo our website. I think our website needs a lot to be desired. That more information, because I realize that a lot of the seniors don't necessarily use their computers or go on the websites and stuff like that. But as people are looking for information, the first place they go is to the web. And I think that if they're trying to help somebody else, then that's why our website needs to have a lot more information. And that's one of the first things that I would suggest that we have. The person that does it now is very, very, very busy and trying to do, 50 other things. So maybe we could have some new eyes come in and look at the website. I think that's always a good idea.
My next
Definitely.
question I'll address to Trustee Goodrich. What will you do to address the systemic racism in this community? Just tell me what you think about that. And
I really feel that the south suburbs that are in Rich Township, that there's a beautiful relationship between all the races. I have not seen racism in our police department, in our health systems. I think that because we have always believed that integration is the best way to live. And I think that I don't know. I may be, I've worked on the diversity dinners for the last 10 years. And now this year we did a diversity book read. And I think that the people really have always tried to, if they see racism, they have tried to work toward opening up the ideas and putting out a friendly hand. But I really feel that when I walk around in Richmond Park, Madison, Park Forest, Country Club Hills, that I see people really being friendly to one another.
All right. Well, I can only I can echo some of what Trustee Goodrich is saying. I certainly if just looking at our computer screen today in terms of who's on this call, I think we do have sort of a very diverse group. And I think one of the benefits of the South suburbs has been its diversity. If we go beyond that, I think some of the things that we've also talked about today are really crucial in dealing with sort of, to the extent there's systematic racism or things there. I think as we have transparency, even fiscal transparency, it just highlights that we're doing things on a fair and consistent basis. And I think to the extent we do that and we publicize what we're doing, I think because we already live together, as we have this greater transparency, and even in employment, in our hiring decisions and in our contracting decisions, I think that's really the way to address systemic racism in our community.
well, I want to do a little more conversation on that because I haven't been here as long as you have, Therese, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason in our history for that. That in the 50s, when Homestead acts were being provided by federal underwriters to purchase homes and develop the suburbs, my parents, the banks were told not to loan my parents money for that. Black people were not included in that. That's a historical fact. And so we were much, it took us a longer time to come into these communities and partake of the advantages that these communities, living in these communities, bring. When I first came to the Southland from Roseland in Chicago, my dream was to bring my children out here so they could go to the park with their little bikes, play in the park and come back home. They could be part of Little League. They could be part of all of the access to things that a child supported community offered them. And that we could easily shop, we could easily go in and out and take care of the business of the family. And so that has dissipated again as the community has browned and darkened in complexion. Those things are rarer. There's not as much activity with Little League, for instance, in Park Forest. And when I first moved out here in 1983, my home was at 310 Salmon in Park Forest. And so when I talk about systemic racism, I'm watching patterns over a lifetime. I might not appear to be, but I'm 75 years old. And I have seen the fall of Woodlawn. I have seen the decimation of Chatham. I have seen areas on the south side and the west side, Bronzeville. I have seen those communities fall. And yet I sit here today witnessing the same concerns and the same patterns I saw back then, with the banks closing, with banks leaving, with no food choice, no real food choice, not anywhere near what we have when we go west of us, just a bit, where the complexion is almost all white. And the question becomes, for a Black person, what happened? What happened from 1983 to now that I no longer have all these choices, and I have to experience that. It's hard for me to go west of me. That's a very racially hostile community for me. I don't want to be stopped by the police over there for any reason, because I don't know where that's going. The George Floyd, Breonna Taylor is real for me. And that just does not happen because we're all getting along. We're not all getting along. There are things that I'm seeing in this community that have brought me to the place that at 75, I want to inform voters, vet candidates. I want us to make great decisions. I need us to do these kinds of things and not just say, you and I get along and we've got what appears to be diversity here, when I know I look around me and I see Olympia Fields going the way that I saw Chatham go. The businesses have gone. They pulled out, they pulled west. I've got to go take my money west. I can't invest in my own community. And so I'm bringing this up because there's a sense of it. That is institutional racism. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not just talking about race relations. I am talking about what happens to whole communities as they brown, and what we can do consciously to make sure that we ensure that the place where the brown, Black, and whites and Hispanics who live in that connectivity have a guarantee that they won't lose any of the values that they came out here to find. So when I talk about institutional racism, that's where I'm coming from with that.
I hear you. I respect and appreciate that. And I think, one of the reasons why I brought up the the fiscal transparency and the hiring and you know, and even if you looked at my questionnaire, I think my responses might have come in a little late, but I sort of highlighted the need for a local preference in the hiring, because some of the things that I see happen, I'm in Flossmoor and my kids go to Flossmoor school. So what I see from time to time, I shouldn't even say from time to time, but fairly often, is we have um, our schools and our municipalities are run by some people who they're in Indiana and they're not necessarily here. They're not local residents. So there's not quite as much concern. And I'm not going to say it's because of a race thing, but I think that is part of the systematic aspect of it. But as we sort of look to make sure that we create the right preferences and incentives for local hiring, which, you know, because of the demographics of our community, I think local hiring and our focus on those type of things will help some of those things. In addition to sort of working with some of our other, you know, you know, there are a number of municipalities within the Rich Township area. So when you look at a Target closing Matson, but the one in Tinley's open right after they built the one in Matson, you know, it seems to be an opportunity to say, hey, look, you know, we can't go over there and spend our dollars, as you're indicating, Ms. Means. We shouldn't be going over there spending our dollars if you just open up one in our community and then you close it and you haven't shared with us really any specifics on that. So I think but it's important that you know, I think Therese can't do that by herself. I can't do that by myself, but collectively with all of us and with the other municipalities, I think we can raise our voice, because those are the systematic type of things that impact our community. You know, when you open up a Walgreens or a Target and then you close it right down, now we've not only stuck with what was there before, but now we have a big empty box that is really hard for, you know, someone else to do it unless they have big dollars. So it's a long-term commitment, and I think really taking a wholesale look and a collective look and working with others on some of these issues is really, I think, the way we have to address it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Trustee Goodrich, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I think that, well, if you lived over on Salmonock, you've seen what's happened to downtown Park Forest. You know, as soon as Marshall Fields left, it was like everything, and of course, well, we always felt that, you know, it was when they built the Madison Mall that Park Forest started to lose all of their shoppers. And now it happened to Madison, you know, so what's going on? But there's a different kind of thing too. I think that we're seeing an upsurge of the employment. People can get good jobs at the Amazon fulfillment center. People, the young people who are healthy and have the big energy, they can get really good paying jobs at some of these places now. So, and I know that when my kids were growing up, those were the days when the job at McDonald's was all high school kids. And we didn't worry about whether they were getting, you know, the minimum wage or not, or what the minimum wage. But now you see people, they are trying to support a family and working at McDonald's. So the whole world has changed. You know, there's a different onset of what it takes to raise a family. And so I don't have all those answers, but I do know that by working together, with the township, working with the communities, and then reaching outside of ourselves, even I can remember that when the Southland Chamber of Commerce came together, we said, that's what we've needed. We don't need to be at odds with our other communities, you know. And the thing is, when Park Forest was built, we pulled from Chicago Heights. When the big mall in Madison was built, that pulled from Park Forest. It just keeps happening. But the thing is that right now, Park Forest is working very hard to bring the small mom and pop stores in. And they're coming a little more. Yesterday, Marla Dillard invited us over to her little opening, or to see where she has her place. And I was delighted to see that. I'm not a person who goes out and gets a smoothie, but I certainly did for that. But it takes you know, just a kind of a reinvestment in your community then.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you said, Therese, that you don't have all the answers and that you're willing to do what it takes to help the communities. That's important. So I really appreciate that you said that.
Yes.
And then, oh, Connie, I was just going to say real quick that Lynn had asked a little while ago if we were getting close to time to close. So I did want to just respectfully ask Therese and Dennis if you all are kind of feeling like you're spent for the night. You know, whatever you're okay with, we can either continue or we can try to wrap up. Just tell us how you feel.
I have to be finished at 8 o'clock.
Okay. How about you, Dennis? Same?
You know, I won't say I have to. I was hoping to, but
Okay. No, that's
honest.
perfectly fine. So that's perfectly fine. We can really just spend this next 8 minutes to kind of close. If the two of you would oh, go ahead, Connie.
I would like to hear from them a 2-minute statement about what you want your voters to know. I want an impact statement. What you want, what separates you from the pack? You know you're running against another slate. What separates you out? Why should I vote for you and not for them?
I'll go along. I'll start first on that. I think that I bring
Overruled, Dennis.
I bring all the years of experience to this, and I can see past what I can see what we were and where the mistakes have been made, and I would like to correct a few mistakes that have been made in the last few years.
That's awesome.
You know, for me, I would say that from an impact statement, I like to really bring some of the skills that I've utilized in private sector, government sector, and just in community involvement in general to have a greater impact in the community. And, you know, I certainly believe that transparency is the most important part, because I think, you know, as they say, sunshine tends to cleanse everything. And, you know, I've worked with county commissioners, elected officials, and the one thing that always has helped when, you know, even if I got a request that seemed odd and I thought was out of place, if I sometimes even mention, hey, we can do what you want, but you must know that I'll have to report that to the Inspector General, or we'll have to publicize this, or this will be part of an open record. Sometimes that just those statements alone have tremendous impact in terms of helping people regulate themselves. So that is really what I look forward to just bringing forward to Therese Township.
I am so glad to have met you this evening.
Well, thank you.
You have made a difference in what I feel about the slates, the difference in the slates, because the other slate did not respond.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to hear their side of the story at all.
Okay.
And we're attempting to go to this process informed.
Great,
and I feel so much more empowered because the two of you took time out of your busy schedules to be here tonight to talk to us. And you can see there's a lot that we didn't know, a lot that you had to bring that information to us. And we really appreciate that.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
And I'll remember that when I go into the polling booth.
All right. Well, thank you. And we certainly appreciate that.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Oh, hold on, before anybody leaves, Lynn did want to make a comment. So Lynn, if you wanna, you said you had a comment that you would like to make.
Do you have a comment, Lynn?
Well, I'm not sure where I'm at here because of my disability hearing. I wanted to make a comment, but I thought that I was muted. I wanted to make a comment that although I do not know both participants, I know Therese very well as a neighbor and a friend, and I respect her statements about what's going on with the Ridge Township. And I'd like to encourage her to support Calvin Jordan to come on and speak with us, so we have an opportunity to also hear from his mouth what he believes in. That's it.
Thank you, Lynn. Definitely. We would love for, Therese and Dennis for you to yes, do that. Encourage Calvin to get back in touch with us. Of course, we know that he is preoccupied tonight, and we will reach out to make sure everything's okay and see if there's a possibility to reschedule for him.
Okay.
So we'll definitely do that. And then really quickly, give me just a second here. Really quickly, I have a very short feedback survey. If you would just hang on the line for a second, I will get it ready and make sure that you get it so that you can click it and you can just fill out just like 4 very simple questions that you can fill out and let us know how we did tonight and how you liked the experience, and if there's anything that you feel is important for you to see changed in this process, because this is our first time doing it. So we'd like your feedback, negative or positive. So give me just one moment to pull that up and you will, let me see, here it is. Let me just get the link copied. I'll put it in the chat function. So in the meantime, as I'm copying this link, if you can open up your chat to make sure that you can see it, the chat box where Lynn and I were typing to each other. And then shortly you'll see a link pop up in there. And let's see. Okay. So that, give me just a second and I can copy it right in here. And thank you for your patience. Sometimes it's hard to navigate around all this stuff while I'm on Zoom. Copy. There we go. Okay, so if you can look in the chat box, you will see, I'll put this link. And all this is a Google form. It's a really quick, short survey. While we're still on here right now, you can feel free to click onto it and fill it out. It just takes a few moments, and feel free to write, any comments at the end. We really appreciate your feedback because we want to improve. If there's always room for improvement, so we'd like to improve. And just let us know how you feel like the experience was. And remember, we will have our recording of this tonight will be available on YouTube, and it will be hopefully within 48 hours from now. I'll have that link available. It will be emailed to you, so watch your emails for that. Also, you can like our page on Facebook. You can just search Save Our Southland SOS on Facebook, and you will find a public page where you can click like and you can receive the updates from us. But you can also search that same name, Save Our Southland SOS, and you will find a group, which is a discussion area that community members, other candidates are all in there having discussions with each other about certain topics and sharing news and information. It's a great place to connect with your community. You just type in Save Our Southland SOS on Facebook and you will find it. And then if there's any questions, comments, concerns ever, not just about this forum, but anytime moving forward with anything that we can help you with, or we can be of service to you, reach out. Our email is saveoursouthland@gmail.com. And then again, try to get that feedback survey if you can. We really appreciate, your time tonight and your stamina to stay on this long and answer. I'm sure you guys have been through the ringer with all these forums lately. This has been a long process, I'm sure, but you can see the finish line. We're getting there. So with that, we want to just thank you again. It's been a pleasure to have you, and we really love to connect with you and hear your viewpoints, and everything that you had to say tonight was very valuable to us, and it will be for the community that gets to watch this recording later. So
Okay,
thank you again.
I finished the
Yep.
survey.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Teresa. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dennis, whenever you have time, please, do that survey. We really appreciate your feedback. And that's all. Anybody have anything else they would like to share? We're okay. All right. Well, then with that, have a great evening. And we will hopefully see you soon. Thanks so much.
Thank
Have a great night.
Thank you.